Hello everyone, good afternoon. So let me make my quick introduction of myself. My name is Bobby. I'm the VP of NexStox and Datuk Durian. So our project is we are tokenizing the first durian farm in the whole world, right? In case anybody don't know what is durian, it's known as the king of fruit because it's the most expensive fruit in the world. It's also known as the most smelly fruit in the world, right? By now, we think that it's the most profitable fruit, right? So a lot of people doesn't have access to agriculture, right? I think durian is one of them. So we want to make sure that, durian farm owners, they're able to access capital that is unable to get during the traditional finance banking. Secondly, for investors, they can get long-term and stable yield, right? So this helps the consumer and also help the business, right? So this is me. Next, Ben, do you want to introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Ben, I work with Anzen Finance. We're doing a stablecoin backed by RWA, specifically private credit assets. So it's a $9 trillion market based on lending in the real world. Also trying to bring sources of very strong, consistent, stable yields into DeFi. So people have more utility when they're going on chain.
Yep, let's go, Ethan.
Yeah, I'm Ethan Chae. I'm the co-CEO of Hippocrat. We build decentralized healthcare data protocol. So what we help patients do is we help people reclaim their data sovereignty regarding their healthcare data. So all the data about your healthcare is fragmented and siloed in different EMR services and hospital servers, but they don't really own the data themselves. So you are, as a rightful owner of the data, you can claim it from the hospitals and aggregate it in a single point of management. So you'll be able to own, manage, and be able to trade your data as a digital asset through our protocol.
Yep, so I think I will ask the first question. I think when people think about RWA, they think about hotels, they think about property. It's very similar to REITs, right? But I think in the whole Web3 space right now, there's a lot of potential for us to do, right? What do you think in this RWA run? What are the different kind of IPs or different kind of things that you can RWA your tokens? Let's go with Ben first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do mostly financial assets, so. Yeah, so definitely all these finance assets that are stuck in TradFi, they're not composable. There's also siloed, right? Hard to trade, illiquid markets. A lot of these things will become tokenized. We can see that already within DeFi. There's just much more utility if you can trade back and forth. There's also a lot of personal utility, right? So, for example, if you own a lot of stock in like a private company, it's not public yet. On paper, you may have a lot of net worth, but you may not even be able to get a mortgage to lend against those because it's hard to value. But there may be a private market or private investors who are value that they may be willing to lend you, but without good infrastructure or other, discoverability, it's hard for that to happen. So DeFi is a way to make a lot of these transparent. I think a lot of these assets that have traditionally been illiquid, if you can tokenize them, open up a lot more use cases.
Yeah, I think just blockchain unlocks opportunities for other types of assets outside. Like what we know about in the RWA section is there are like financial assets that are now kind of like traded over using on-chain transaction, and also tokenization of like real estates or something very traditional, like where people can still not really need to use blockchain to trade and like invest in those assets. But there are certain types of assets that are only available in a digital format, and it'll be great. And those could be, when we become creative, new types of digital assets that could be traded, empowered by blockchain infrastructure, such as data, and there could be IPs regarding your digital arts. There could be, we can be more creative about, like for example, what Bobby's doing with agricultural land and the yields coming from the farms. Those are the types of assets that were formerly not available to general public for investments, and we are unlocking that opportunity by leveraging the blockchain technology.
we have a very good balance, right? We have agriculture farm, we have finance RWA, we have data RWA, right? So I think it's a very interesting mix. In this RWA run, there will be a lot of new business or new line that we would never see in traditional finance. I think this is very interesting. So what do you think are the opportunities and the challenge in this transition, right? Because personally, in traditionally Web2, you only see REITs as a form of like RWA, but right now there'll be more. Like, what do you think are the opportunities and challenge there?
Yeah.
I'll begin. So I actually think for us, for our project, there are two types of major challenges. It's about one is actually being regulation compliant. So we deal with a very, very regulated type of data, which is healthcare data. So the way we save and treat the data has to be compliant with privacy policies around the world. So what we do is that when we're when we're helping the users transfer their data out from different types of hospitals and then aggregating through our platform, what we do is that we create individual data vault for everyone, and your personal information is actually redacted and it's it's swapped with your DID basically, and your DID represents you, and we encrypt the data using your private key connected to the DID. So every single person's data is actually encrypted using their private key, so that as a protocol, we don't have the access to your data. And we just help you manage and control it and to be able to sell it as a digital asset. And we help you do the transactions. But in the as a layer, we don't see the data. And that's regulatory compliant in most countries. And also the other part is making this whole experience kind of seamless, that normal users, like for example, people who have valuable data for R&D purposes are people who have like cancers or certain kind of conditions, and they usually are more than middle age. They're like in their 50s or 60s, and how are they going to interact with the blockchain? Like if they don't know about this technology and they don't know how to do wallets, how to use wallets, like use gas fees, those kind of things. So the way we deal with this is that we allow the hospitals to pay for the gas fees of the users, and we create vaults for them, and they use us as like a blockchain as a service. So these types of innovations, I think, would be needed for mass public to be able to use blockchain technology and benefit from it.
Yeah, I think definitely the onboarding is a big challenge. There's a lot of friction. In the same way the internet started, you have to learn how to use all these different technology. There's a lot of fragmentation. The way we try to solve it is build a lot of abstraction. We also let partners build their own interfaces on top, right? So with DeFi, these are completely composable. If a company is very good at D2C, they can build their own front ends, they can get their own customers, they can use our tokens and our assets behind the scenes. I think that's one way to solve it, as well as to be collaborative. The other challenge is building a lot of the trust. So for us, whenever you're touching RWA, you now are talking cross-industry, right? So a lot of traditional finance, you have to educate traditional finance people about DeFi. You have to get permission from regulators, or even when you're sourcing deals, you can't just provide capital. There's also a level of trust for people who want to work with you. And then on the DeFi side, you have to explain about the TradFi stuff and the different RWA and education. So a lot of it, I think, the space is still growing massively. So a lot of educational opportunities still in blockchain.
Yeah, that's very good insight. I think that firstly the user journey and also the trustability, right? The credentials are very important for users to it's the challenge that we face, right? So in this so you guys mentioned about onboarding, right? So what do you guys think is the best onboarding strategy, right? And do you guys think it should be Web2, Web3, or a mix of both? And what are the things that we should do to get more users on board? Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it is like you do need the Web2 type of interface, and the majority of people are going to it's for convenience. I think people are going to be willing to do that. Almost in the same way, right? Like credit cards have an embedded fee. So there's cost to use them for the merchants and other things. People are going to use that and be willing to pay, some percentage processing fees because it's convenient instead of just sticking to cash and saving like some processing fee, right? So if a merchant says I only accept cash, you end up losing a lot of customer. So I think in this Web2 DeFi, it's also kind of similar. If you can build a very convenient experience, people will value that and will primarily use that. If you kind of force people to cop around all these different websites and do all these things manually, it's going to be very hard. So, there's specific examples, right? There's examples of looping strategy, which is very common in DeFi. You put collateral, you borrow, then you take what you borrowed and loop it again. So these are very manual steps. There's protocols that will let you do it in one click, and they'll take like a protocol fee, right? But those protocols, because it's so easy to use, people are willing to pay those fees and have a much simpler interface. And I think you'll see more and more of these patterns. So that's also a good opportunity. It shows that reducing friction will increase the usage.
Yeah. I agree on the reducing the friction part. I already mentioned it right before. I think onboarding strategy has to be actually very, it varies between what kind of project you actually run. So in our case, there are two ways we onboard like different types of users. So we have different target audiences, different target users that we want to onboard on a platform. One would be more focused towards people who actually have a healthcare data that will be interesting for the buyers on our side, like the corporate clients that we'll be facing, like pharmaceutical companies or insurance companies or AI model builders. So like the types of biometric data they need will come from certain types of people. So for them, what we do is we partner up with hospitals. For example, we partner with two of the top 5 major hospitals in Korea called Anzen Institute of Medical, and the other one is the St. Mary's Hospital. And we work with the largest B2B medical check hospital chain in Korea called KMI and South Care. And through them, what we're doing is we're creating consumer-facing pages and interface for them in their consumer facing applications or website, so that they are using they're using just normal the kind of services they used to use, and we just add a data part to it. So and they're like, oh, I wanna save this securely on blockchain through blockchain encryption, and I wanna actually opt in for the sales of the data for profit, and they don't really need to know what happens in the back end. We run everything for them, so that we will be onboarding millions of patients without them having to learn about blockchain. That's what we do for that data part. And then there's another target audience that we want to onboard, the people who are really interested in the idea of giving up their data and in change for token. They're more like crypto degen, kind of new, like Gen Z kind of population. And we're launching more like a clicker game type of game where people can share their data, but in a lighter format, like wellness data, like their Apple Watch tracking data, or their fitness data, and they can post it and they can get reward for it, and then they can change the reward to our token later. So that was, in that way, when we're looking at it, we strategically kind of try to diversify the strategies that we onboard different types of users on our protocol.
I think right now a lot of users, right, especially in Web2, all of them invest in different projects, right? Properties, finance, different stuff, right? But in Web3, a lot of people are asking the same question: how can when I invest in your project, how do I know if it's legit? How do I know whether I can trust this project, right? Because there's so many rug pulls, many stuff in the hole right now. So in your opinion, what are the kinds of steps, or what are the things that you guys do to gain the trust of the customers? Ethan, you want to go first, Ethan?
Yeah, well, in our case, it's more like, so what happens in our ecosystem is that hospitals, major hospitals that are trusted by the general population, are participating as a data validator in our network. So they're the ones who validate the medical data and healthcare data that's onboarded in our platform. That way that people kind of trust what we're working on. And also we try to, when they're using our protocol in those like consumer-facing apps, we try to have that page of tutorial where we walk them through the process we go through to make sure their data is safe. So we redact their personal information and we encrypt it with their private key and we save in a centralized server. But even if it's not going to be breached, but even if it's breached, those hackers won't be able to read the data that way. Yeah, so that's what we do.
Nice. Yeah, I think for us it's because we are more like a curator, right? So for us it's about finding very strong partners that have a track record. The good thing with TradFi is there's a lot of history. So we can use BlackRock, large institutional asset managers like this. They're helping do the U.S. Treasury parts of our collateral, working with other credit issuers that have 20, 25 years of experience. So we can focus on the things we're good at, and then you really find trusted partners and work with regulators and these types of things to make sure the assets that you have are actually valuable, right? They exist, they've been audited. So that's how we solve that.
I think for my side, there's a lot of project raising money to build, properties, hotels, or whatever, right? But a lot of them are just selling a dream, right? For us, to get to try a customer is that, when you invest in our tokens, you actually own the piece of land in the business, or our land is being transferred to a trustee, so it's not under us once you buy the token, right? So this gives a sense of security to the customer, and also like the other IPO as well, you go through audits, you go through financial management, everything, right? So I think whatever in Web 2, we got to bring it to Web 3 as well. We cannot just be like, hey, it's Web 3, we don't need audit, we don't need certain stuff. I think whatever the Web 2 are doing, we definitely need to onboard some of them over, right? I want to ask one question that's outside of just purely RWA, right? Like, a lot of articles, right, has said that, RWA is going to be the next 50 billion business in the next 10 years, right? We have experienced DeFi summer. We have DeFi. We also have experienced NFT summer. In this bull run, what do you think will be the biggest? It can be anything. It can be, you think that DeFi can be NFT. What do you think will be the biggest in this bull run? Let's go. Ben.
It's not a financial advice. I think, traditionally DeFi was the strongest part in this like last few bull runs. Because it's very connected to very spirit of blockchain, like transaction and making assets, like making investments frictionless, etc. But I guess the things that were RWA. I started getting into blockchain when I was writing a white paper about tokenization of real estate asset, and then that was my first project. It was 2017. And the reason that I never really pursued it in the end was that I saw all the regulatory barriers that I have to go through to make that happen. It's not about the technology. We could actually easily build a technology to tokenize the assets in a year or two. But we had to go through persuading the stakeholders in the regions we were part of to make that actually possible. And there are two companies in Korea that does that, and it took them 6-7 years to come up with their first use case. So, but as we are becoming, the industry is becoming more mature, and the governments are realizing the potential of this technology, and that it's not like all scams, right? So that's why RWE is gonna be, I think, really interesting narrative in the upcoming bull run, and also just real life use cases outside just being Web3. So outside DeFi, outside play to earn, but actually using blockchain for our real daily life kind of problems, which could be, for example, for us the healthcare data, and also that's why the new coin term about DeSci is popping, because they want to actually use this technology to for the advancement of science. And I think those kind of narratives will be very big, including AI. AI has been really big for the last 1 year, I think.
So which you haven't said, which one do you think will be the biggest?
I hope DeSci, but it's I think RWA or AI will be the major narrative in my perspective.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think for me it is probably AI, right? But it can, it's because it's such a broad term. It can also expand to DeFi. AI is very interesting because it has both hardware and software. Like you need to spend a lot of capital to buy GPUs, run these farms. So there's an aspect where that you can classify that as RWA or it can be its own industry. I think cases like this, once you start the onboarding, it'll be massive. Like these will be like trillion-dollar industries, like billions coming in, versus like people are trading coins. There's not much capital if you don't have a very strong real-world utility.
I think for me, I think although AI is great, right? Like there's many good, awesome AI project right now. I think the most important thing that will bring the biggest market is who bring the real user that spend a lot of money, right? Some people say it's gaming, right? But from my understanding, there are a lot of gamers that are there to really farm. But who is the one that bring real user that really contributing to a lot of money? I'm personally very bullish on RWA because I feel that people has been investing for RWA for in Web2 for many years. But Web3 allows them to have more flexibility to invest in things that they have no access before and can generate great profit, right? In US, in China, we see a lot of businesses that are profitable, but they can't go into IPO, right? Because a lot of restrictions, a lot of things that prevent them from going, right? I think RWA is going to let them come in as well. And I think there's a lot of users that understand RWA rather than tokens. You ask them to create you ask them to create a wallet, trade tokens, understand the fundamentals, read the white paper. It's hard. But if you give them something easy to understand, there's always in Web2, I think it's going to be big, right? So I'm personally very, very bullish on RWA as well, right? I think one more question I would like to ask is that, your project, right? Who are the main audience that you want to attract? Like, who are the main audience that you attract? And what is the steps that you guys will do? You guys mentioned a bit about general, but in specific your business, what are you going to do to attract all these kind of users that you want?
Audience, you mean?
Yes, audience, yes. Users. Audience.
Well, for us as a protocol, a data protocol, our main focus is just onboarding as many people on our protocol as possible. Just any types of healthcare data onboarding on us that creates like kind of a snowball effect for us. So there's more and more data sets that we can create out of their data, and like by labeling them. And like once we start actually selling. Help them sell their data to the buyers, and that will fuel growth in the entire field. I mean, like the way it works in the industry at the moment for healthcare data is that only the commercial data are fully kind of treated among like between the hospitals and insurances. They sell data regarding like what kind of treatment were given, what kind of pharmaceutical products were sold to and prescribed to their patients, but that's about it. There's like the actual biometric data concerning individuals' health status is not available in the market because that's simply is blocked by regulations from being able to be traded. And if you can actually create a use case of that becoming traded through a marketplace, I think that's a very big opportunity for us. So that's our main focus is onboarding just audiences from actually regions that have the pharmaceutical companies have with the willingness to buy the data for clinical trials. That's our main goal for the moment.
Yeah, for us, it's onboarding a lot of people who are more long-term investors. I think that's our ideal. And in TradFi, right, where long-term is very great, but if it's illiquid, then there's nothing you can do with it. You also lose. There's a lot of opportunity cost that is lost. So when you bring assets onto DeFi, you can unlock a lot of things, and you really have more control over your funds. So, a lot of our users, they may be very frustrated with traditional finance. Like you may be sending money, and then your transfer will get blocked until you provide more information. There's a lot of other things, and it's really your money, and people that want more control and composability of that, that's a big target for us.
I'm also curious about, recently we have seen, CZ being got by SEC. A lot of people are saying that this is going to be the last bull run before it gets regulated, right? Do you think RWA should be regulated?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Do you think RWA should be regulated?
It's already regulated, isn't it?
Yes, but right now it's not officially regulated yet, right?
I don't think it's actually any different because, for example, in order to implement some of the projects regarding like financial assets or like real estate to be on chain, it has to actually pass their regulations to be actually active, right? Like that's the whole point of it. So like using blockchain technology to be like regulatory compliant, I think it's actually a part of the requirements that we need to fulfill. Like that's what we're doing here. Like for us, that we are using blockchain technology to enable something that hasn't been possible before due to regulation issues. Like for example, as a third party, if you store healthcare data of your users, then you have to go through all these like security related audits, and you need to have the licenses for it, and then you need to store the data in particular region for each like different nationalities, all those kind of things. But if you encrypt it and if you do save in a decentralized manner, we go around all those like regulatory issues so that it makes that project possible. So I think it goes in a similar way for RWA too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the regulation does exist because anytime you're touching something in fiat, I think there's adequate regulation. You actually don't need more. What you need is clearer rules on how the existing regulation applies to new natures of assets. That's kind of the gray area. I think to the comment about bull run, right, about last bull run, I think it's common to underestimate. Like people will overestimate the near term, right? It's easy to hype up quickly, but in pretty much every technology cycle, people underestimate the long-term effect. And I think what you'll see in almost all technology, right, is you almost have this everlasting bull market. So even thinking about like cell phone adoption or other things, it actually took many years about this. Before it became so mainstream, and by that time that happens, your market has become 100 times or 1,000 times larger. So it'll be actually, if you look at how much is on-chain versus off-chain, that's where we are now. It actually has 100x potential, even though you feel like it's a bull market. All the capital is still in TradFi, right? And that's why we're trying to do things with the real world.
Okay, we have left 2 minutes. Let me just ask you a few quick questions. You guys can just answer either one or not, right?
Okay.
Super cycle this bull run, yes or no?
Super cycle? Yeah, I think so.
Ben?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I don't think so. Next, RWA or DeFi?
RWA.
Yeah, RWA.
RWA. RWA or meme coins?
I think it'll be meme coins.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's about the culture. I think it's like the meme coins about the new culture arising in the Gen Z, about like them having to have a stake in whatever they're participating. So it's just, I think the meme coin idea and like meme coin community building has to be applied to all the other projects in the market in a certain sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like we're all meme coins in a sense, I think. Meme coins.
Agree to a certain extent, yes. Last question. Donald Trump or Biden? Since it's over, you can say it now.
No, I'm biased on this one, Trump, but I'm not an American citizen, so.
So Biden?
No, it was Trump.
Yeah, the results have been clear.
Definitely, man. I just can't wait for January when officially Donald Trump take over and see how the market goes, right? Yeah. So I think that's about it. Thank you everyone who attend. Thank you the speakers. Thank you everyone.